If you're struggling to stay motivated with your nutrition, you are not alone and you're definitely not broken. Here's an exact blueprint of what to do when you've lost motivation because at some point you will. And I have some exciting personal news to share. But before I do that, I just want to firstly thank you so much for joining me here today. If you followed me or maybe have followed me for a while on social media, you will know that I have done a lot of kind of short clips or short form content, but I haven't done anything that's long form. So like this. And it's been on my to-do list because I suppose with the short form content, you can only get out so much information in that short space of time. And we know with nutrition that it can be a little bit more complicated. So I'm really looking forward to, I suppose, starting on this journey. So you might be watching on YouTube or you might be listening as a podcast. I'm going to post them on both. And I think it's going to be a really nice opportunity to, I suppose, share more insights into nutrition, my experience as a registered dietitian in women's health. But I think this is going to be fun. If you follow me on social media, you would have seen probably went a little bit quiet posting, particularly with stories. And I suppose the reason was it was such a manic time. In that time, I have moved to Australia. So we are currently staying in Sydney in the east coast of Australia, which feels wild to say. I'm really not used to it. To be honest, it's mad. It was never really a thing on my radar to move to Sydney. You know, it's so far from home. I am a home bird. I'm very close to my parents. My brother does live in Vancouver, so he's over the other side. To be honest, I had lived in Dublin for so long and I was kind of just felt like I was just in a little bit of a rut. Fortunately and unfortunately, most of my friends are actually in Australia and most of my partner's friends are also in Australia. So, you know, we just felt I can obviously work remotely with my job. So everything is staying the same in terms of one-to-one consults, corporate talks, and Nourish to Flourish, which is my nutrition women's group program. So all that's done online anyway. So that's all stayed the same. And my partner got a transfer with his job. So we said we'd come over for a little while and see how it is. And to be honest, if you know me, I'm laid back in some areas of life. Probably would describe myself more as a type A personality, but especially career. I was really hesitant about coming, but I said, I'll come. Life is short, see what happens while we can. I'm very open to the idea. You know, it is quite temporary and home is always there. So that's my big news. It's been different. Like Australia, obviously, I had seen a lot of stories and pictures and heard from a lot of friends who were out here. So I feel like I kind of had this image in my head. To be honest, it's kind of lived up to it. It is a lot of sun, beach. Kind of obviously we missed the summer, but the weather is still fab. Yeah, it's just really nice. And oh my goodness, one thing that has really struck me about Australia, and I don't know if it's particularly where we are, but the health, fitness, nutrition scene is like I have never seen anything like it. The first few days we were here, I met a friend and we went down for like a sunrise walk down by the beach and a coffee, which is such a done thing here. But oh my God, I have never seen so many people doing body weight exercises on a beach or the promenade, going for runs, walking. It was actually incredible to see. And another thing I have noticed here as well, and again, I'm not sure, we're on the East Coast in Sydney, so I'm not sure if it's just here. There is so many healthy coffee shops, cafes, restaurants. Obviously in Ireland, we have definitely upped that in the past few years as well, because I think there's definitely been an increased awareness, knowledge, understanding, and also interest in health, nutrition, fitness, all that kind of stuff. Another thing, obviously at home, you know, the layout of supermarkets, petrol stations and stuff is very strategic. And I have no doubt that it's the same here in Australia. But one thing I have noticed in some of the bigger supermarkets, there's no like chocolate, sweets, jellies or anything at the tills. It's just chewing gum and maybe the odd protein bar. And if you're living in Ireland, I presume the UK is probably similar and probably the States too. But you walk to the till and you're guided by this little kind of walkway into the till at a petrol station, and it's just full of colorful chocolate sweets, jellies, lollies, all that kind of stuff. So that has really been, you know, really eye-opening. So hopefully I learn a bit here, we can take it back home. So that's a little bit about the kind of excitement in my life at the moment and a little bit what's kind of personally going on. Now I'm in much more of a swing of things with work. The few weeks trying to get settled were really tough. Trying to work at the same time and find accommodation, it was quite stressful. But we're sorted. I feel like I'm in a much better routine now, which is lovely. So a little bit about, I suppose, me professionally. If you don't know me, follow me on Instagram Instagram, but don't know much about me. So I am obviously a registered dietitian and performance nutritionist. I did an undergraduate degree in human nutrition in UCD, which is University College Dublin. And then I did a master's there as well. So my undergrad was 4 years, my master's was 2, and then I did a 1 year postgrad in sport and exercise nutrition. So yes, I was in college quite a long time, much to I think my parents' despair. I'm so content. I started off doing business and I just knew it wasn't for me. So I knew this was kind of the path to go down. And I'm so content. I'm so happy in what I'm doing, getting to work with fantastic women every day. I suppose my interest in women's health, it probably, to be honest, was always there, but it was particularly sparked. So when I finished my master's, I started off my professional career working as a registered dietitian in one of the main women's hospitals in Dublin in Ireland. And I suppose I absolutely love my time there. But, throughout my time there, I had built up a private practice on the side. And then I went full time into that at the end of December. In that hospital, it was mainly an outpatient setting. There was some inpatient. I loved the kind of mix of both. And I worked in gynecology and I also worked in maternity. So just to give you an idea of what that actually encountered. So maternity was anything from gestational diabetes. So I started off in that, loved that, really, really enjoyed that. And then I went into women with a high BMI, those with the low BMI. So, is there any way we could support their nutrition to make sure that they're getting the most from the diet and also babies getting the most too? So I did one-to-one clinics and we did classes as well. So there was weekly classes, which were super. I really loved the mix of it. And then I also worked in gynecology and that was superb. I adored gynecology. So gynecology ranged from a few different things. So it could have been maybe ladies who were undergoing fertility treatment. I also worked in a teen gynae clinic. So the consultant or the doctors would have referred patients into me and I would have seen them in clinic. And that was so rewarding. I absolutely loved working with teens. That was predominantly girls who had been diagnosed with the gynae condition that nutrition played a role in or nutrition had an impact in. So for example, it would have been PCOS, endometriosis, amenorrhea, which is the loss of periods. That was kind of the main things that I can think of. So obviously the free fertility scheme was launched in Ireland last year, I think. And we would have seen ladies maybe who were seeking fertility treatment who needed a little bit of support from a dietitian to maybe maximize their diet or help manage their weight. Finally, in gynae clinic, there was women who were going through menopause as well. So some of them I would have seen as well. It was a super, 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 super job. I absolutely loved it. I was really sad to leave all the girls. And that's one thing definitely when you are starting your own business or working for yourself, it can feel quite lonely. So, not having colleagues to bounce things off. So my poor partner gets a lot of it. I ask him, I'd say about 200 million questions a day. So that's a little bit about me. So let's get into our topic for today. So today's topic is motivation. And this is something that actually we spoke about on our live call in Nourish to Flourish. So if you're not familiar, Nourish to Flourish is my women's nutrition group. So it's online. It's a group of amazing women who are all trying to prioritize their health, so improve their nutrition, feel their best. They all have slightly different goals, but the one kind of common theme is that they want to feel their absolute best. They want to get the most out of their life. So many women in there want to manage their weight. Some want to reduce their cholesterol. Some want to reduce their blood pressure or just want to feel more confident in their own skin. Every Wednesday, we have a live group call for Nourish to Flourish. And every second Wednesday, I'll present a different topic. And this one really resonated with people. And I got lots of messages from lovely women after saying that they found it really helpful, that it really resonated with them. And to be honest, I'm actually not surprised because motivation is something, we all struggle with from time to time. And I'm going to chat a little bit about that. I'm going to give you a blueprint of exactly what you can do when that motivation dips, because unfortunately, and I hate to burst your bubble, but it is going to dip at some stage. Motivation is not constant. Some days you wake up and you will feel very motivated. Other days, you wake up and you're like, oh, I just really couldn't be bothered. So here we go. I have a definition for motivation here. I just want to read it off this. So motivation fuels behavior by providing the energy, drive, and purpose. So as a result, it influences the direction, the intensity, and the persistence of behavior and sustained actions. I think the one really important thing when it comes to motivation to talk about is that motivation is fleeting. It's an emotion like any other emotion: anger, happiness, sadness, anxiety. It comes and it goes. So the goal isn't to be motivated all of the time, because let's be honest, that is not realistic. But the really important thing is having systems in place and also building habits. that will work and help you achieve your goal even when you're not feeling motivated to do so. There's two different types of motivation. There's intrinsic, which is basically that is coming from within. It's something that you really want to change yourself. You want this for yourself. You want to feel better. Maybe your confidence isn't great and you want to make changes to improve that. Or maybe every time you go for a walk, you come back and just feel so much better in yourself. Or when you eat nutritious food, maybe that just makes you feel a whole lot better and happier. So that is what intrinsic motivation is. Extrinsic motivation then is when it comes from an external source. So it's not within. It could be maybe your doctor has told you that your HbA1c is high and you need to change your diet to get down. Or perhaps you have been diagnosed with high cholesterol and again, your doctor has told you it's important to make changes to your lifestyle to get that down. Or maybe you want to make changes to impress your partner or your kids. Or maybe you're working with a dietitian and they tell you, okay, you need to up your vegetable intake. Now, it won't be as blunt as that, but we might give you a bit of direction to do that. So it's not coming from within external rewards or pressures. And I suppose the thing about it is your motivation won't be exclusively intrinsic and it won't be exclusively extrinsic as well. It's likely going to be a mix of both. So maybe it's something you want to do yourself, but then maybe also your doctor has told you, okay, I would really, really urge you to make changes to your nutrition or your lifestyle to get that blood pressure down. So we have this motivation loop or this kind of, I suppose, cycle that I often see women kind of finding themselves in. So it starts off by that kind of need, that drive to want to change. So again, going back to our motivation, that could be intrinsic. So it could be something like you just really haven't felt very confident in your own skin and it's just time that you need or want to change. Maybe you've been finding it a little bit harder to get up the stairs and you feel like you need to make changes to help with that. So whatever it is, it's that drive, that urge, that want or desire to change. Is it Alex Hormozy maybe who had that quote and it's like the pain of staying the same is worse than change. And you know, it's that drive to get out of your current state. At that state, usually you will maybe sign up for something. So I was given the example with my ladies that then they signed up for Nourish to Flourish. And typically when you sign up for something new, motivation is high because it's all new, you know, it's exciting. There's a course to go through there. There's a load of people in a group. Everyone's really lovely. Then you start to take action. So say, for example, in the case of Nourish to Flourish, you know, you work through the course content, you attend the live calls, you ask me questions, you post in the group, you get the most out of it. Then you will get some sort of feedback. So that could be, say, for example, if your goal is weight loss, it could be maybe the scales had shifted a little bit, or maybe you're not even thinking about the scales, you just feel better in yourself. So that's really positive feedback. Or maybe then you maybe haven't been so happy with how your progress has been going and then you get a little bit disheartened. And I always reassure my ladies that is inevitable. You cannot make changes to your nutrition without having bumps along the road because at the end of the day, you're only human. Based on that kind of feedback that you get, it's that inner self-talk then, how you speak to yourself, that's going to determine what road you go down. So one is kind of very critical self-talk, you know, I'll never be able to do this, all this kind of really negative stuff. And then what's going to happen is you're going to end up stopping and eventually quitting. And then you're back in that cycle a couple of months later when the desire to change is so strong again, motivation is high, and then we go again. The other one is having a little bit more self-compassion and just being a little bit kinder to yourself. I always say to my clients, speak to yourself in the third person as you would speak to someone else. So in those situations where maybe you're not as happy with how things are going as you want to be, take a step back and think, okay, if this was my best friend, my mum, my sister, my daughter standing in front of me, what would I say to her? And that's what you need to start saying to yourself. So it's treating yourself with a little bit of self-compassion because then you're going to allow yourself to have ebbs and flows in your journey. And then you're going to keep going, keep pushing through, and eventually you will end up reaching your goal. So I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that kind of cycle, but it is really common. You know, a lot of women and men, I just say women because I work with women, but they do find themselves kind of in that cycle. So I would even just pause me for a second and I would reflect kind of on that cycle that I spoke about. Okay. And think, where do I find the biggest challenge that affects me in that cycle? So is it that kind of drive to change. So that's at the beginning. Then it's when you're signing up to something. Okay, well, maybe do I need a little bit of direction? Have I tried to work with a dietitian or sign up to a program before? Then it's taking action. Again, when you do sign up for something, you will have a little bit more accountability that can help to take action. And then that feedback. Okay, well, maybe it's how I'm actually responding to the feedback is what I find the biggest challenge. And I suppose you might be wondering, well, like, why does motivation fade? Like, I look at other people and they might feel so motivated. And to be honest, nobody is. But there's a few reasons why it fades. So, firstly, is inconsistent results. And I just really, even if you take away anything from this, I really want you to know and to understand that inconsistent results happen to everyone. If, say, taking the goal of weight loss, if you can think about a graph, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up. It's never going to be linear. Okay. You're human, you're not a robot, and that's perfectly fine. You're normal. Another one is loss of novelty. So, when you sign up to a program or you work with someone new, it's all a bit of a novelty. It's all fun. When that wears off, sometimes then motivation tends to wear off a little bit as well. Lack of immediate results. So, this is relevant to most areas of nutrition. Lack of immediate results. So, this is relevant to most areas with nutrition. Taking, for example, something like HA, hypothalamic amenorrhea. And that can be the loss of a period as a result of over-exercising and often under-eating as well. That takes a little bit of time to work through to gain that period, that regular period back again. And it requires a bit of patience. Weight loss is the exact same, cholesterol is the same, high blood pressure, all the exact same. Meaningful change takes time, but as humans, sometimes we can be so impatient that we want things done yesterday. And I'm speaking from someone with experience of that. We want instant results and you just need to trust the process. I think everyone will be able to relate to this one. And its external stresses are just what we call life because that's inevitable in everyone's life. It could be work, it could be kids, it could be elderly parents. You could be trying to do all of that and run a household, provide dinners for your kids, for yourself. And then you're still trying to move regularly, eat nutritious foods, feel your best, and you're exhausted. So sometimes it can just be what we call life. And the final one, and I think this is why it's important, to sign up to a program or to work with somebody, is a lack of a roadmap. So you might be wondering, well, Sinead, that's great, but I just want to know what I can do when I don't feel motivated. How can I get myself out of that funk? And, I'll be completely honest, I have felt in a big funk with movement over the past while. And it's tough, guys. It's really tough to try get out of. But, what they always say is nothing worth having comes easy. So the first thing is knowing that dip in motivation is going to happen. It happens to everyone. You're not different. You are completely human. It's normal. It's a feeling and it won't be there all the time. As well, what we want to do is instead of relying on our emotions, because our feelings or emotions drive our thoughts, which drive our actions isn't great. So maybe you are reflecting on that feedback that you've got from your actions. Maybe you're not so happy with how you're doing. So then your confidence is understandably a little bit lower. You're not feeling great about yourself. And then that drives the thoughts of, I'll never be able to do this. I can't do this, comparing yourself to other people. And then the action that drives is just giving up because you just feel your confidence is so low. You're not enjoying the journey. It's all this self-critical talk. So it's really important to not solely rely on our emotions and instead rely on the habits that you built. So even if you don't feel confident, in making change, you can still have, say, an extra piece of fruit each day. And over time, that is going to build up to something really meaningful. So think about the day ahead, think about the week ahead, and think about small little habits that you can build in to that routine. I always say to my clients that your goals are like your roadmap to get to your destination. So if you think about your big audacious goal, that's your long-term goal, but then you're going to break that down into shorter term goals. So it could be monthly goals, weekly goals, and then daily goals. And that gives you a very actionable step or thing to do each day or each week. If you're kind of going into the week being like, I'm just going to eat healthy, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? What do you need to put in place to eat healthy? So it could be, say for example, you want three balanced meals each day. Okay, so balanced meals, I know I'm gonna have to buy carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and color in the shop. So I need to do a shop, I need to make a list, I need to have an idea of what I'm having for those meals, even for the first 2 days of the week, and then I can reassess. So having some sort of a plan or a roadmap is super important. It's also important to reassess your goals. So with goal setting, I always say to set those big audacious goals, but it's important to be realistic too. So if say your goal is something in the long term, I don't know, run a marathon, okay, just for example, and you're starting off at 1 kilometer runs at the moment. Now the marathon is until next year. You have loads of time to train, but your max is 5 kilometers at the moment, and you're kind of struggling there. And this is like me training for my half marathon. I'm at the very beginning, and it feels like a huge hill to climb. But over time, you will get there. So it's important to forget about the end goal, okay? You don't need to think about the length of the run that you need to do on the marathon day. You need to think, okay, how am I going to build this up over time? What do I have to do today? Today I have to run 2 kilometers. Let's go get that done. Tomorrow I have to do three, whatever it is. Build up over time. So sometimes that's important to just reassess your goals, see are they actually relevant? Are they realistic? And, if they feel maybe a little bit out of reach, because what you're going to end up doing is comparing where you currently are to where you really want to be, although you have loads of time to get there, but it can feel very disheartening when the journey is slow or if it is going slow. And another thing I always tell my clients to do, so when somebody signs up to Nourish to Flourish, one of the first things I'll get them to do is to really reflect on their why. So, especially if you do sign up for a program or you sign up to work with somebody, that shows a level of motivation. You've paid for it. So when you do that, there is a why behind why you want to change. On the surface, sometimes women will say to me, I just want to be healthier. But what does that actually mean? Dig deeper, try to unpeel all those layers. Okay. So does healthy look like for you? Is that because you want to be able to have more energy to play with your kids or your grandkids? Is that because you love fashion and you want to be able to feel confident and comfortable in your clothes? What does it actually look like? Do you want to be around for your kids or your grandkids? Do you want to extend your lifespan and improve your longevity? So really reflect on your why. And I think what's a really good idea, I am or have become such a fan of journaling. And initially, when I was younger, I remember my granddad used to always journal, and it was so lovely when he passed away. We were all reading his journals and the beautiful things he wrote. And initially, when I was kind of introduced to the concept of journaling, and I tried it when I was younger, but it was all kind of, dear diary, today was X, Y, Z. But the journaling that I tend to do or really find beneficial is like that, reflecting on your why, putting it down on a piece of paper can be so therapeutic because I feel like in your head, there can be so many different thoughts going around. So getting that on a piece of paper can be really helpful. Another thing it can be handy for, when you're maybe not having a great week and there's loads of different thoughts going around your head, you're stressed, you're sleep deprived, you're worried, anxious, whatever it may be. You feel maybe your progress, if you're trying to make changes to your nutrition or to movement, aren't going as well as you want them to. It can be really helpful to write all that down because that can help to rationalize a lot of those irrational thoughts. And I think one of the most important things when it comes to nutrition, and we have kind of nearly trademarked this little reset button in Nourish to Flourish, but I am such a believer of that. Say if it is with nutrition, one weekend, one day, one holiday, 1 month is not going to do anything in the grand scheme of things to your health. The most important thing to achieve meaningful health outcomes is to focus on consistency. And that's why enjoying the journey along the way is really important. So if you are trying to improve your nutrition, please don't see it as a diet with an end date. See it as a shift or a change in lifestyle and actually enjoy what you're eating and how you're moving. It's like the 80-20 rule, which I'm such a fan of. So 80% of the time, yeah, you want to eat nutritious foods, you want to try and move your body. And then 20% of the time, you want to be able to enjoy yourself. Food is there to be enjoyed. And it's also plays a huge role in bringing people together. Before I leave you, I just want to finish off on a few nice little quotes I like to tell myself. Action drives motivation. So when you start something, like that with me with the running at the moment, I don't necessarily feel motivated to go out and run, but each run gets a little bit easier. And then the motivation comes when I'm a little bit more confident and enjoying it a little bit more. And I really like this quote. So the only way to guarantee you will not reach your goals is to quit. So, although at times many of us want to quit in many different areas of life, really important just to keep going. Think about that. Visualize yourself in a year's time. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be fitter? Do you want to be stronger? Do you want to feel your best? Have more confidence? Just keep going. It will pay off and it will work. I promise. At the end of each of these episodes, I'm going to do a little Q&A, and I actually just brought in a question that I got from a Q&A that I did on Instagram. I think it was last week maybe or the week before. And it asks the timings to eat meals before exercise. And this is a really good one. It's really personal, it's really individual. It depends on you and how you feel your body can tolerate food and then training. With your main meal, that's recommended to eat that 2 to 4 hours before you train. So depending on the time that you're training, that could be your breakfast, it could be your lunch or your dinner. If you're training, say in the evening, it might be your lunch and then come home and have your dinner after you train. So that's 2 to 4 hours before. Again, trial it out, see how you feel. Personally, I would need to be at the 4 hours. I find 2 hours, like if I eat dinner and then try to run 2 hours later, I am just going to get such bad cramps and stitches. So I need to give myself a bit of time. Then in terms of a snack to top up those glycogen stores, so you want some simple digestible carbohydrates, something like a banana, to be honest, is fine, or a little bit of toast and jam, something like that that's going to give you a quick burst of energy, won't be too hard to digest. Again, it's personal, but anywhere from say 30 to 90 minutes. So I usually say to people within the hour, try to have that little snack and, it should be digested by then. But again, what's the really important thing is just to focus on how you feel because, you're individual, you're not the same as your friend or your teammate. Trial it first, see how you feel. And then if you feel like you need to push it out a little bit longer, then that's absolutely fine. So I hope that was helpful. Guys, it was really lovely to have this little conversation today. I really am genuinely so looking forward to these chats over the little while. I'm also providing you with evidence-based nutrition information. There's a lot of people and things out there that are making nutrition very complicated. And I always say we need to go back to basics. And if you're getting the basics right, you don't need to worry about all the fancy bells and whistles. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you have a great week and we'll chat soon.